right, we'll be moving on to the English Premier League right now, and we've got Seb Jones joining us, and of course we have interesting conversations about the EPL. Thank you for joining, Seb.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you. Let's start off with this. People have tagged it as a slave contract for Erling Haaland, signing a new contract, a 9.5-year contract with Manchester City. What do you make of that? Do you think it is showing that Erling Haaland doesn't have the ambition to want to progress further than Manchester City?
Firstly, I think the contract length is sensational, really. Obviously, something we've never seen before. For a player to commit that amount of years to one club, it's unseen, unheard of, really. So sort of that's the first thing to point out, in that it's something we've never seen before. In terms of Haaland himself, maybe it does show a lack of ambition, yeah, because we've seen, if you think of other elite players like Ronaldo, like Messi, they've not just stayed at one club. I guess Messi stayed at Barcelona for a long time, and since then he did go on. And Haaland will want to achieve that sort of level, will want to be a world-class player. Yes, he's on his way to do that. His goal-scoring record is no joke at all. But yeah, I guess it shows commitment from him. It shows that City aren't slowing down. There's all these rumours that Pep Guardiola has only got a few years left, and then after that, what's going to happen with City? Well, Haaland is not showing any signs of slowing down. He's committed himself to Manchester City for a very long time. So I guess maybe that will encourage other players to perhaps stay in a little longer. Obviously, not quite that long. But yeah, I think it shows dedication and commitment to Manchester City. But I can see why perhaps it's a bit of an easy option for Haaland rather than going elsewhere and testing himself. But yeah, massive kudos, I think, for City for getting that deal done in the first place. We know how much of a havoc he is causing, and he'll continue to do so for defenders in the Premier League.
Right, I like the fact that you mentioned the havoc he causes in the Premier League when he plays against these defenders. And I think he was writing something about their defenders. Maybe he's here to stay or something. So there's more problems to encounter with Erling Haaland in the EPL. So these defenders need to find a way to be able to stop the giant himself, talking about Erling Haaland. Let's talk about games to go down today in the EPL. Interesting games, to be honest. Liverpool will take on Brentford. But let's talk about Aston Villa versus Arsenal happening at the Emirates Stadium. Now, Arsenal are 4 points behind Liverpool, the table toppers, who have a game in hand against Everton. Do you think Arsenal fans should dream? But of course, they still do not have a striker in their squad yet. If this January transfer window comes and goes without Arteta getting a striker, it will definitely spell doom for the rest of the season because of the injury worries that they have. But should Arsenal fans start to dream?
They can start to dream, yeah. Perhaps not as much as City and Liverpool fans at the minute, but it certainly can do. We saw over midweek that Liverpool and City drew and Arsenal had to win, and they put in a pretty dogged and determined performance against Tottenham. So they can dream, but there's still a lot of time to go, and there's a lot of games to be played in that time. And as you said, they do have a weakness on the pitch, and the weakness is at that top end of the pitch in the striker attacking position. They're relying too much on Kai Havertz, who misses too many chances, really. And Gabriel Jesus, obviously, out injured for a long time, so they do need to strengthen. If they do strengthen with quality, then you imagine that they can continue to dream and continue to try and push for that top spot, which Liverpool seem to be occupying and have them for quite a lot of the time this season. But yeah, I think certainly when grabbing a result and the morale-boosting win in the North London derby midweek, I think that will do a lot for Arsenal, for Mikel Arteta, for their fans as well. And yeah, they'll certainly hope that with that determination and with that sort of dogged spirit, they can continue and they can keep going and keep challenging Liverpool right until the end. And they've come so close in recent years. There's no reason why they can't come close, if not one better this time round. But they certainly do need to strengthen in that attacking position and bring a good quality option in before the window closes.
Right, and of course, people are not really talking about Nottingham Forest in that EPL table, not really giving them so much credence, but they're also a team challenging for the EPL title. But Arsenal takes on Aston Villa later today. We saw Aston Villa squeeze out a 1-0 defeat, a 1-0 win over Everton some days ago. What do you think the story will be at the Emirates Stadium? Because we know Aston Villa is a hard nut to crack especially playing against a former manager in Unai Emery.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Emery will love to go back, given sort of his spell at Arsenal wasn't the most successful. In terms of Villa, I think they've just been a little bit like Forest, just going under the radar a little bit. You know, we're used and accustomed to seeing Villa winning. You know, yes, you know, it's not always been pretty at times, and you know, the scraping 1-0 over Everton in midweek, I think, is a good example of that. It's not been pretty, but they've been getting the results. You know, Watkins and Duran up top, sort of both taking it in turns, scoring really, and that's good. That's really healthy. It's good to have competition. It's good to have players, you know, different types of players scoring and providing competition in the top end of the field. So yeah, Villa, I think will prove a test to Arsenal, and Arsenal, I think, will stand tall. But you know, Villa seem to have this knack about getting good results against good teams, and I think that'll be no different. So they're pushing, and I think it'll be maybe a tight one, maybe a tight 1-0 or something like that. But Villa will definitely push Arsenal all the way.
We'll see how that turns out, because it is a tough encounter between both sides, because Arsenal want to play catch-up with Liverpool, who will be playing against Brentford. And for Liverpool, let's talk about Liverpool now. Liverpool play against Brentford, but I think they're playing away from home to Brentford. Is it a tougher fixture? Because we saw them play against Nottingham Forest, and it looked like they fell apart until they scored that equalizer to ensure that game ended in a draw. But do you think that Brentford will pose yet another threat to Liverpool's title ambitions?
Well, yeah, Forest have certainly set a good example of that, and Brentford will want to copy and will want to, you know, start on the front foot, which Brentford have done so often this season. You know, the amount of times they have scored in the early moments of the game, so they'll want to continue that form and sort of catch Liverpool off by surprise a little bit, and you know, sort of dominate like Forest did midweek. So yeah, Brentford have got a great home record, even against the bigger top six, if you like, and Liverpool were as you said, sort of were surprisingly done by Forest. You know, when they travelled to Forest, and Brentford will hoping to do the same. You know, Brentford themselves have had a good season so far, to be fair, especially with that home form, and that home form is key for them, sitting in 11th place. Although they were knocked out of the FA Cup last weekend, so they will be hoping to bounce back. You know, they got a good draw against Man City midweek. They'll be hoping to sort of follow that with a good result against Liverpool. You know, playing Manchester City and Liverpool in the same week, it's pretty tough. The fixtures not being kind to them, but they've just got to make do. And if they can get a result against Manchester City, then they can get a result against Liverpool. That's no problem at all. And I think, as I said, Brentford being at home does give them that advantage. And Liverpool will have to play good football in order to sort of beat that. The home, I don't know, like the good home record that Brentford have, really, because it's proving tough to break down. So Liverpool will have to be on their A game in order to try and break down this Brentford side that are really strong at the GTEC Stadium at their home ground.
Right, you know, every team, I stand to be corrected, every team always gets to that point where they have a diminishing return, they have a drop of form. Do you think this is our time for Liverpool? Because I don't think they've won any game in 2025. And playing against Brentford, another tough team, how long will this continue? So every team has a dip in form. The likes of Mo Salah struggling in that game against Nottingham Forest. Jota was the one who got the goal. There's also a case for Trent Alexander-Arnold struggling right there, playing at the wings. What should change for Liverpool?
Not too much, in my opinion. I think, you know, we saw what they were doing under Arne Slot. He's proven so successful up to this point in the season. I think they are just having a little blip, as you said. You know, it's something that every team will face in a season. We've seen that when Manchester City have sort of won titles, they themselves have gone on a few matches where they've not performed at the best and perhaps not picked up the results they would have liked. I think for Liverpool, they can afford to do that, given there is, as you said earlier, 4-point difference between them and Arsenal in second, and they also have a game in hand. So that could easily be sort of a 7-point gap, really. You know, with the game in hand, should they win that one. So they've certainly got breathing space, really. It's not as if, you know, they've got exact pressure from sort of the teams below them, so they can afford to have a few slip-ups, if you like, in the running. And I do think they'll come back against Brentford. You know, they've not won in 2025, but I definitely can see Brentford, despite it being quite tough, I can definitely see Liverpool's quality just coming out on top and given they do have a good record at Brentford when they have played them away before. So, yeah, Liverpool, I think they'll stop the 25 hoodoo will come to an end today, this afternoon against Brentford. And then hopefully they can sort of use that as a bit of momentum going forward and produce the quality that we have seen up until this point in the season so far.
All right, interesting games to look out for. But let me ask you before I let you go. We have about 5 games to go down today. Which of them will catch your fancy? There is a Newcastle, Bournemouth. There's Brentford, Liverpool. Leicester City takes on Fulham. West Ham versus Crystal Palace. And the last game of the day is Arsenal versus Aston Villa. Which of these games will catch your fancy?
Well, obviously, we've covered Arsenal, Aston Villa, but I think the other one for me would be West Ham United against Crystal Palace. I think, obviously, West Ham, under Graham Potter now, he's only a couple of games in charge, so he's now starting to implement his style of play, how he wants West Ham to play, and he's got the January transfer window to sort of help him bring in his own players to do that. Palace is starting to pick up a good run of form as well. Yeah, it's sort of two teams that are in a good run of form. West Ham, as I said, won 3-2 against Fulham in what was quite an entertaining game, but they had the 3-1 lead in that one. And Crystal Palace have been beaten in the last 5 in all competitions. So, yeah, be an interesting one, a chance for sort of Potter to prove himself in a London derby. And, we know that they always do get fiery. So I don't think this afternoon will be any different in terms of West Ham against Crystal Palace. So that, for me, is one to look out for sure.
All right, so we look forward to those games, and hopefully we'll get to enjoy the very best of the English Premier League matches today. And lots of goals will be scored today. I look forward to it to enjoy as well. Thank you very much, Seb Jones, for joining us. We look forward to having you yet again some other time.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
All right.